Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to find out about 6 happily surprising things about living in America. So, we're going to see what exactly is different in America than from the rest of the world, than in the rest of the world. I was born and raised in Germany, but I'm now living here in the US myself. So, I guess I have a little bit of a comparison myself. But yeah, we're going to find out what he has to say about it. And let's see if I agree with it. I've lived in a few different states now, and I can tell from experience that even every state, not it's all of the U.S. is different from the rest of the world, but also every single state is different from the next. So let's see.
The memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to the things that surprise us. Specifically, for me, the things that happily surprise me about living in the United States. Now, this might seem like a strange video to do at this time while many of us are trapped in our quarantine bunkers, but once we all emerge, I'm excited to start enjoying many of these things very, very soon.
I guess this video is a few years old.
Even though I didn't get to for the first 26 years of my life. America, today I salute you. Here are 6 happily surprising things about living in the United States.
And I think he lives in the U.S. as well.
I suppose sometimes, it's the little things in life, or should I say, the litter things in life that please people. And, growing up in a country that is a wasteland, quite frankly. I'm joking, Britain's not that bad. But we do have a tendency just to, throw litter around. And sometimes now, I've been hearing back in Britain since
trash.
I've left, we've had this problem with fly tipping. And that's where, people are dumping their trash. But even minus that, I just got this general sense that Britain was just a bit more littery than America. In America, everywhere's super clean. That's one of the great things about it. You can enjoy the oxygen around you, knowing that it hasn't touched a chewing gum wrapper. This is usually the case, and I'm taking the examples of the places I've lived. This is about 4 different cities at this point. And in each and every one of them, you have very green, very well-kept gardens.
I don't know if he's going to mention it later on, but what state, does any one of you know what state he actually lives in? Ooh, this looks beautiful. Oh, I love that. This looks great. Yeah, not every state I've been to was super clean. I don't think it's states itself that are super dirty. I think it's specific cities or areas or counties or things like that that are more dirty than others. But I've definitely been in super clean areas too, and those are not just the ritzy areas. It's not just the super expensive homes that are all nice and clean. No, it's also sometimes just public parks that are very nice.
Clear sidewalks, although in some cases that could be because nobody used them. But it's really refreshing to go to the beach here in Chicago and not find discarded chicken wrappers or crushed Coca-Cola cans or used condoms. Americans on the whole are just better about not littering, and I know that sounds like a generalization of the wild variety, and it makes me sound like a crotchety old man telling people to get off his yard, but at least my yard is clean. I mean, most in Britain are, to be fair. It's mostly the streets, and I should know, I grew up on the mean streets of Grimsby. It was actually a nice area, but sometimes the streets would still be littered with caviar containers.
Caviar? What?
This one was hugely surprising, especially as a fan of football, or as they say in the rest of the English-speaking world, soccer, because, I'd always sort of understood America to not be truly interested in soccer or football.
It very much depends on, from my experience, it very much depends on the state. I mean, granted, I'm not into soccer. Even though I'm from Germany, I've never really been into soccer that much at all. And now some of my friends that I grew up with, they definitely were, and they went to games and things like that, like Bundesliga games. They watched Fußball. That's what it's called in Germany. That's why when other people call it soccer, we kind of just giggle, because I know. Yeah, I mean, to us it makes more sense to call it football. But I know here in the US, football is a totally different sport.
And in many respects, this is still true, at least, when things are normal and sport is still happening. America still prioritizes NFL, basketball, hockey, and what's the other one, baseball, above all other sports.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was just really surprising to this fresh-faced Brit who came equipped with a soccer ball to find that there were soccer fields aplenty. They were everywhere, even in Anderson, Indiana, right, which is the place that I've lived that had the lowest population. but off the top of my head I can already think of about 5 soccer fields in that city alone.
Really?
They're very, very widespread, at least in the eastern portion of the United States. I can't speak for the sort of the plains and the Rockies, because can you imagine having soccer fields high up in the mountains? It might happen. If you live in those areas, let me know in the comments below. But I think one of the chief reasons that there are just so many of them is that they're very popular with school-age people. And of course, it is one of the most popular sports in the United States played by women. You've just got to look at the overwhelming success of the US women's national team, who've won at this point about 2.5 million World Cups. England, of course, is still waiting on theirs. And speaking of waiting, that brings us on to this.
Soccer fields, yeah. I don't think I've seen. I mean, I've lived in California and West Virginia and Alabama now. That's where I'm now. I'm in Alabama. But I don't think. I mean, here in Alabama, people are definitely into sports a lot more than in states like West Virginia or even California. I mean, granted, like I said, I don't really hang around people that are into sports that much. I mean, it's just never really been my thing. But yeah, people weren't talking. I mean, even when I was working with them, there was no one really talking about them in the other states. But here in Alabama, man, people talk about the NFL. Excuse me, the NFL, the NBA. They talk about that stuff. College football is massive here. But soccer, I mean, every now and then people will talk about soccer, and I think they play it in their free time too. But I haven't really seen any soccer fields. I mean, maybe you have them in like university, like at the universities. But I can't even think of the closest soccer field to me. I don't even know where I would go. Probably the university, I think. I mean, it has to be one somewhere, but it's weird.
America is known as the land of the free, and I always thought that was quite weird because, I always considered Britain to be quite free, as in we had freedoms, but then I started to think, well, maybe it comes down to the little things, right? Mm-hmm. Something I noticed, of course, and I've talked about on this channel, is you can get free refills in any kind of restaurant on your sodas.
I love that.
And the same is true of entering public toilets, except you don't drink the contents. Let's be clear about that. What I'm saying is, in Britain, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, public toilets will charge you an entry fee in order to use it. And I can understand why they do this.
In Germany, they do it everywhere.
For the upkeep of said public toilets. But it's a big problem when you really need to go. Nobody wants to find themselves in a race to find their change versus a race to change their knickers. In America, though, I'm sure there are some...
Yeah, in Germany, all my life growing up, whenever I wanted to go to a public restroom, first of all, there were way less public restrooms than there are here. Here in the US, it's very common. You have a public restroom in your Walmart, in your Target, in your whatever, in your Home Depot. I mean, there's public restrooms anywhere. You're definitely not short of those public ones. We're talking about public ones here specifically, not just for the employees, though they oftentimes have to use the same ones. But in Germany now, like if you're out of the city, it's so funny to me now because I've been living here for a while now. And now, to think that if I was to visit Germany again, I would have a hard time even finding a public restroom. Like, it's funny because that means you can only be out for so long. Like, if you need to go to the restrooms, every 2 to 3 hours, then you can only be out for that long because you're gonna have to be back home to go to, to use the bathroom. But yeah, no, all my life growing up, whether it was at the mall. Like for a mall example, there was usually someone cleaning the restrooms, and they would be waiting in front of the entrance to the restrooms for both the men and the women. They would have a little plate in front of them, and it wasn't necessarily mandatory to pay money, and it's not like people would pay like $5-10. No, they would pay like here's 20 cents, here's 50 cents, here's €1 or something like that. But it was kind of, it was in a way it was expected, and I always paid, but yeah, that was in malls. But for example, when you're at the train station, or you're at you're making a stop on the Autobahn, for example, at a rest stop, and you have to use the restroom, it was mandatory to pay. Usually what they would make you pay is like 50 cents or a euro even sometimes, just to use the restrooms. And oftentimes they weren't even that nice, but they had those things where, you know, when you take the train or the subway or whatever, it's those things that turn as you walk through to prevent the next people from just walking through after you paid. Yeah, that was very annoying. That was very annoying. And it's funny because after you paid, they would usually give you a little 50-cent voucher that said, "Hey, now you can, you know, if you paid a euro, now here's 50 cents, so you can pay, you can use that in the shop, like at the gas station or whatever now that you were at, to buy something." But you couldn't just use it on anything. You had to use it on something that was like at least 5 euros. So now you had to spend even more money. Yeah, it's interesting, to say the least.
Some quirky exceptions somewhere. You never have to worry about that. You just have to worry that people can see you through the crack.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh boy.
I feel like I've mentioned window screens a lot in my videos, but not really in the context of how they've brought me a lot of joy. And that might sound really strange, right? But in England we never had them. And we also never had air conditioning. So you find yourself in this strange situation, particularly on a warm summer's day, of having to open the window just to get some fresh air in. But of course with that comes some other things. Things like, you know, mosquitoes, which to be fair in Britain aren't anywhere near as bad as they are in the American Midwest, or Big Daddy Longlegs, or, you know, bees. Bees can get in the house, and
yeah, screens.
Who wants that? Now, you know, bees and wasps and things like that are probably the most dangerous.
There's no one in Germany has ever used screens. Actually, there was one family. It was a friend of mine, that I had growing up. His family had screens, and it was the funniest thing ever, because when I first visited him, when I first, you know, met up with him at his house one time, I thought to myself, this is the most logical thing to have in your home, like window screens. It makes no sense to not have them. I mean, granted, if they're also kind of darkening a little bit, because some of them are really thick, then it makes sense to only have them in parts of the house. But if you have a house, I think you definitely should have some window screens. It's just, you can't argue about it. It's a logical thing to have. Oh. Hold on.
Really strange, right? But in England we never. But of course with that comes some other or Big Daddy Longlegs, or Britain. So it's not really a huge concern, but it can be an irritation, and it's an irritation that's largely alleviated in the United States by the existence of these window screens. I'm not saying that insects don't get in at all. I mean, I've seen enough ant colonizations in my kitchen to know that that's not true. But I do not remember the last time I encountered a wasp, a bee, or a mosquito inside my apartment. It just doesn't really happen. But the big revelation that is window screens doesn't just stop bugs from getting in, it also stops a certain somebody from getting out, and I'm not talking about my wife. She uses the door. Now in Britain, people might be a little less concerned about this because, you know, there's more of an outdoor cat culture there. But my cat, much like the cats of many people in the United States, is very decidedly an indoor cat. And if I want to open the window, as I did today, right, there are occasions during spring and autumn when, you know, it's not hot enough for the air conditioning unit and it's not cold enough for the heating. You want to crack a window open, right? And if that were the case in Britain, on a lower floor or even the second floor, your cat's gone. And to me, that would be bad because, you know, recently I did have a dream that we lost him at the beach, and I know that curiosity isn't going to kill my cat, but a Prius would. Window screens save lives. Now, once we get the all clear to start en masse leaving our apartments, whether that is by the door or the window, then there's one aspect of America I will never take for granted again, and it's this.
National parks?
Don't get me wrong, you know, we have a fantastic national park system in the United Kingdom, and one, you know, I wished I'd experienced more while I lived there. And the same thing is happening right now as I live in America. I feel like I haven't seen enough of the national parks, or even sort of state parks or state forests.
Well, that's because there's so many.
Now, I have experienced one or two, you know, Muir Woods near San Francisco, but I want to see the big ones, you know. I've sold out at this point. I want to do Yellowstone National Park, I want to do Yosemite, I want to do Badlands. All of them basically in a week. Can we make that happen?
No.
Why not?
Because combined they're larger than Britain.
Right. The national park system is amazing, protecting some of the most unbelievable natural settings I've ever experienced, or will experience, because
I want to go to Yosemite,
I want to enter the Grand Canyon. That's not a euphemism. So I've already said to the wife, when we get out of this, we're cancelling the Paris trip. Even though she's always wanted to do it, so that's a little harsh. We're just going to go out west, you know, pack up our tents and grow mustaches like Teddy Roosevelt. That's me, not the wife. Now, those of you that are new to this channel might not know that I used to do travel videos back in the day. And today, at the top of Ensign Peak, a wasp stung me. But then that, combined with having to work a day job, just got a little challenging. So I put it on hold, but I think now that I'm YouTubing full time, I might start it up again. I don't mean tomorrow, I mean when we've got the all clearance to go and do this sort of thing.
Yeah, true though.
This one might be the
I definitely want to visit some more national parks. I mean, I think I went to one or two when I was a little younger when I visited the US, but no, it's really good. Yeah, national parks, and most of the time, do they even cost anything to enter? I don't think they cost anything to enter, and if they do, it's probably not that much. I don't think they cost anything. Do they? Let me know. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people here have been to national parks. Do they cost something to like enter?
Biggest one of all, hence why I saved it to last, because after all, what is a country without its people? In America's case, it's one big land of unregulated national parks. And I think this one is on the mind because, well, I haven't seen any people except the 1.5 that I live with. And the good thing, I think, that was surprising anyway about Americans and American people is just how nice most of you are. That's if you're not talking about politics or religion or PB&J sandwiches. Of course, there are wild exceptions, and I do mean wild, in any country, and I've certainly seen them here on occasion too, but they are the exception that proves the rule. Unlikely as it seems, I just have to look at the comment section beneath my videos. I know, sounds like a mistake, never do that, but mostly it's Americans who comment, and for the most part,
"You're hilarious, dude. Keep it up. You're hilarious," says James England. "I really love your channel. I like the mix of history and discussion of the English language. Also, you're hilarious. Keep it up." Sounds like a hilarious guy.
they're all really nice. You're all really nice, right? Most of you. I mean, I ignore the ones that aren't. I have a motto: focus on the flowers, not the weeds. And maybe this is a bad example. A good example would be in real life. Americans are very welcoming, you know, sometimes too welcoming. I've been invited to ranches by people I've never met. It's weird, but it happens. And
yeah,
I think
but that
it's
really
just sort of
depends
bred
on
into
the
people
state.
to be hospitable. There's a lot of hospitality.
It's true. I would say for the majority of people that's true, and especially compared to other countries or citizens of other countries. But I've also had very bad experiences with people where they're not welcoming at all. Granted, again, that happens all over the world, but it really depends on the state or like the communities or the specific county. In my opinion, it's a case by case thing. Every place is different, very different. But does he still live in Chicago right now? I don't know. Do you guys know if he still lives in Chicago? Is he talking about those people?
You often hear of Hoosier hospitality, where I lived in Indiana. You hear of Southern hospitality, an appreciation for other people that goes missing on Twitter, but for the most part, you don't have those kind of interactions in real life, or at least that's been my experience of it. The interactions you have, I think, are mostly very nice. I think of going into shops, I think of going into restaurants, and I know that it's part of their job to treat the customer well. It can be split into two camps. Either you get that really sort of over-the-top cheeriness because they want a higher tip, or it feels very genuine, specifically when you're in a shop and you just strike up a conversation with somebody. It's much easier to do, I think, than perhaps in Britain. We're a little more guarded, I think, about certain things like that. Wild generalization again, and of course I'm not saying that Americans are better than British people, but I think it's worth mentioning because if you're coming here and you expect everybody to fall into sort of one of 5 categories, right? Either a seedy boss type from an 80s Wall Street movie, a stoner kid, a surfer dude, they're one and the same, all of the characters from Friends, or Norman Bates from Psycho, then you're going to be disappointed or happily surprised, as I was. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me.
Honestly, I think you can find all those personality types here. Everyone here in the US is totally different. You never know what to expect, dude. Someone can be looking one way, but sound a different way. I mean, oftentimes the personality, it happens very often that the personality fits the looks, and it happens equally as often that that is not the case.
Let me know in the comments below, specifically if you're not from America, what you were surprised that I was surprised about. And if you are from America, same. Listen, I divulge this kind of information on Twitter.
Yeah, honestly, like I can't really disagree with him. I mean, let's see. He said it's super clean, so litter free. Soccer fields, so you found a lot of them. Can't really agree with that. Free public toilets, love that. The freedom of window. He just labeled it free freedom, but you know, he's probably talking about the window screens. National parks. Yeah, national parks are great. And the people. Huh. I don't know if I would necessarily call them surprising things about the US. I think these are very, very known things. But he's definitely not wrong. Yeah, let me know if you guys agree or disagree with some of these points. Yeah, I can only agree, honestly. Like, yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to react to. And other than that, hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon.